This was the year life was shaken up for every citizen of the world. This is 2021, automatically completely different, right? And this is Jess Paul. So, for half a decade when I wasn't producing a regular series, I came back to YouTube as an audience member many times and for many different reasons. To figure out how to do a retro updo, to figure out how to do a retro cat eye, to listen to creepy stories, while learning how to do a retro cat eye, to find out what material I needed to create my business, to watch other people create their business, to learn how to do a French accent, to learn what the f*** is going on in the world, to know how my favorite songs were born, to know which fast fashion brands were the absolute worst, remembering what rain sounds like, to hearing opinions of people I don't always agree with, hearing stories of people who are more like me than I ever thought possible. At the end of the magical mystery year we know as 2020, I took the winter break when both YouTubers and Hollywoodites usually go back to the Midwest states where they came from. This year, some people and giant companies left California for good, and other people like me weren't getting onto a plane if someone promised me $1,000 and 1 million TikTok followers. Priorities. I actually forgot my TikTok password like 3 months ago, so I successfully but accidentally curbed my shuffle dance and puppy dubs addiction. Regardless, I got to take this time to reflect on who I am, who I want to be, and what it means for this channel and in my own community. Stick around to the very end because 3 of these categories are getting a facelift. So here are the 5 things I learned about myself when I looked back at 2020. Number 1, I really love reality TV. For my 2021 New Year's resolution, I will attempt to watch more movies. Now, I know that sounds like a weird and easy resolution, but if I'm being brutally honest to who I am and what I like, I have seen very few of the classics and I don't really care to. And I'm also painfully aware how ignorant and ridiculous it sounds for a movie actress to struggle to watch some of the greatest movies of all time, or as I describe them, a bunch of old slow burns with over-the-top acting and cliche movie lines that I'm hearing for the first time in their actual context. I honestly want to be proven wrong, okay? I want to be surprised. I want these movies to change my mind about that preconceived notion. I want to grow as a person. But while I couldn't force myself to finally sit down and watch the 3-hour masterpiece that is Dances with Wolves, which is free and available on YouTube, I spent $50 on Amazon Prime for the 2 Ghost Hunter spin-offs that I binged in 48 hours. And I feel like this admission is one of the many steps of working towards one of my lifetime goals of being as self-aware and honest with myself, even when those admissions are embarrassing. Because even if there are things about me that I would like to actively change, the first part of that is to expose my most undesirable traits and try to thoroughly understand them so I can move on to changing them. Liking reality TV is not one of those traits though. So this year, I wanted to revisit our first changing pie piece on the wheel, and that is acting and filmmaking. Not only do I have a lot to say about some of the reality and actual scripted fictional shows I love, but maybe even some of those classic movies I have forced myself to watch. So that's why I'm expanding this category and we're calling it Showbiz. We'll fix that later. From behind the scenes of what it takes to produce in the constantly evolving genre of reality TV, to dissecting cult favorites, Showbiz is gonna get a little more spicy. But since we now have a broader name for this wedge salad of a category, there's one more subcategory that I want to toss in there, and that's YouTube. For a long time, I've always wanted to talk about the intricacies of being an independent creator, understanding an algorithm and writing trends in the evolving world of social media and video production, discussing what I found to work, what works for me, which is different, and what I love seeing in the content that I consume. And I have an inkling that some people who watch me are YouTubers themselves. Hit the like button if you think there is way too much stuff under this one tiny umbrella now. The number 2 thing that I learned about myself during 2020 is that health is subjective to a degree. Unlike the broadening of my acting and filmmaking category, here's one that's getting squished. I've noticed that there was one category on my wheel that makes me cringe every time I land on it, and it's health and fitness. There are many genres of videos that I gravitated to at different points in my 20s, and one of those subjects was the keto diet. I watched bodybuilders on keto, normal people on keto, days of eating, intermittent fasting experiments. So when it came to starting my own show about all the things I'm obsessed with, it was a no-brainer that I wanted to be part of that community. But in self-reflection, I realized that not every kind of content I consume has to be content I reciprocate, especially since that kind of advice should come from studied and seasoned medical experts, and I could not be farther from that. I do still actually follow and love the keto diet for myself, but in watching the reactions and practices of everyone dealing with one crisis after another in their own different ways, this year, I'd never want to promote something I deem to be healthy as any kind of end-all be-all. Like on my channel, I really just want to document my own experiences and opinions and my experiences, even if they are arguable or I myself am fallible, because, oh my god, am I ever. Okay, so this one is actually more just about semantics, but changing the wording here also opens up the broader category of food, because I just like food, and I think many other people do too. The number 3 thing that I learned about myself during this pandemic is that my time is my greatest commodity. In the beginning of This Is Jess Paul, I made a video about how I run multiple businesses and have multiple jobs, which is still an entirely relevant video. Go watch! But what 2020 has actually shown me was that since I practically sat at the same desk in the same room of the same apartment for days to weeks to months, it became incredibly easy to track how many of my actual waking hours could realistically be dedicated to the projects that I had in front of me. And when I say realistically, I mean including my time for relaxation and a proper amount of sleep. I feel like I have a much better grasp than ever before on what I know my body can actually do and what I even want to do with the time I have. I think in 2021 it's going to be a lot easier for me to stop saying yes to every opportunity just because it's there. I want to learn how to work smarter and fill my time with only the things I enjoy or that help me towards my ultimate goal of having a substantial seat in the entertainment industry. And I will surely be bringing you guys along with me on the Success Express today. Number 4 thing that I've learned about myself and possibly the world and all of human life as we know it is that nothing is secure. If you haven't visited recradio.net in a while, I actually use it for my personal Song of the Day blog. And 2020's Song of the Year was a track by the band Stoplight Observations called Security. I could probably do an entire blog post or episode of Wrecked Radio on one of my favorite bands that I discovered in 2020, but the song in particular was a little too relevant to the space that I and millions of other people were in this year, even though it was released around the 2016 election. Man, have times gotten worse. This song is a gorgeous slow rock ballad that is beautiful in its sound but sarcastic to the teeth in its lyrics, with a verse like, "Guess I need a new suit, new tie, new shoes, turning in my resume, do a few interviews, remember firm handshake, look 'em in the eye, back straight, say your GPA, and don't you dare lie." Well, maybe I can lie. If it means getting the job, I'll do anything, I'll try. Get turned down 30 times, then get an internship. All aboard, now it's money time, I'm about to be the shit. All I really need is 2 cold beers a hot and security. Going back over this year and often trying to package this entire life, the decades I have left, the ones I've already spent, what do I look back and remember what mattered? When my sister, who became a great video editor, went to college, I sat in on the orientation and heard the department head so proudly state that ever since the movie industry began, there was always a need for filmmaking. And then something like 2020 happened, when, yes, the industry still found ways to produce content, but for many this dream ended. We've all watched entire trades have their union workers be replaced by robots or more efficient resources, which is ultimately the best thing we could want for our human race, progress. But our culture doesn't evolve without leaving those who cannot adapt in the dust. Not to mention that we, or our loved ones, the confidants who help us get through our daily life, can just die any day, pandemic or not. So, a new priority for my life is to just make sure that a significant part of every year, week, day of my life is filled with people and conversations and memories and projects that just make me happy, or make this life worth all the work. Not after I reach my goals, not once I feel satisfied and secure, because I don't think that there's such a thing as security anymore. And that's not a lamentation. That's me finding the unpolished truth in this world and claiming it, understanding it, and then working with it to have the best lifetime that I possibly can. And number 5, the number 5 thing, the last thing that I found about myself. I love being alone. To a degree. I've always said that if there was anyone who could probably survive solitary confinement a little easier or longer than the average person, I suspect it would be me. Seeing that I haven't been bored since 2008 and have endless resources of communication and entertainment, I finally had 2 existential breakdowns in December when I found out a huge live event that I was looking very forward to in the nearing future was postponed. It was that light that I had at the end of the tunnel, and it was gone, at least for 2 years. The second breakdown was admittedly during the finale of Supernatural, but I count it because I bawled for actual hours straight in a kind of catharsis for holding in the tension of the year for months. Hey, Sammy! And I just love showing that clip. But one of the greatest feats that I've always attributed to YouTube is the unparalleled opportunity it gives to audience members to feel less alone. There have been some great debates, and by great I mean big, not fantastic, but in my humble opinion, I believe that social media, algorithms, AI are ethicsless machines, not unethical machines, machines devoid of ethics. You can watch an entire expose about how teenagers are bullied faster and easier through the magic of the internet, but a biased documentary can also easily neglect the vast history and subculture of people who have found their communities, their advice forums, their supporters, their followers, their friends, that they could not reach IRL, now via the internet. I've always believed that social media is a robot arm that we've built ourselves. It might be stronger. It might be equipped with tools and abilities a natural hand doesn't have. But at the end of the day, there's always a real person behind the arm, making it move and giving the commands. Unless the robot arm grows a consciousness of its own and chokes us in our sleep. But that's not what the internet is yet. The way in which we are sold to is in the terms and agreements a boardroom drafted and decided on. The lies that can sway a presidential election in the most powerful country in the world were not generated by a CAPTCHA test. It started with one person's post. The internet is humanity magnified, amplified, and sped up for good or for bad. You will find the deepest, darkest pits of humanity on the internet, but sometimes it can be as easy as closing that account and finding another website or group or chat room or subreddit that hosts the people more like you. There were times in my life where I had a problem or something weird or embarrassing or wrong about me that made me feel like the only person in all of history who has ever experienced what I have. And one of the greatest comforts I've discovered over time and with the help of social media, especially YouTube, was that no one on this planet will ever have an original thought or feeling. The times I've watched someone discover, admit, explain, or overcome, or not overcome a problem that I myself have been some of the most powerful gifts I've received from complete strangers who may never know how included they've made me feel just by telling their story. And it might take a while or distance or exploration for me to talk about some of the things that I feel will help others, but it's something I want to be known for doing in this lifetime, to reciprocate that same help and comfort that so many creators have done for me. And that's why. The third and final slice we are changing is this one. When I started Quarantine Fridays on this channel at the start of the pandemic, it was an experiment of so many different aspects. Like, do I entertain as well when I'm not scripted? Can I find enough activities to do in a 2-hour period? Am I able to learn and control the technology of running a live stream? And the answer was, I loved it more than I had even expected. Making the types of structured, edited, fully thought out videos like the one that you're watching now is my bread and butter, but to actually interact in real time with the people who watch these structured videos every week was a related but separate experience that I was really missing on YouTube, that taught me the value of individuals that make up that number in my subscriber count. So for the year of 2021, this slice will be disappearing, this one, from the wheel, because we will be engaging in a live show every other Monday, so that my structured show alternates every other week with a live stream. And the wheel will be sanctioned to just the edited show, so that every time we spin, that'll be a category that we revisit in 2 weeks, and the live show will be a wild free-for-all. Another new thing you already know, if you're part of my live streams already, is that when I became a YouTube partner, I was granted access to super chats and super stickers, which were never something I ever thought about, and honestly made me kind of cringe a little bit, because I never loved the idea of taking money from individual followers for next to no reason. It's why I never started a Patreon, despite being an internet personality for a decade. I always liked how YouTube AdSense footed the bill to make my silly entertainment completely free for you, and if I was ever selling anything, it would be more of a tactile exchange, like a piece of merchandise or my handmade food art. Man, if you're new, you have so much to learn. But I do understand how super chats are a valued aspect of YouTube live streaming, and if it's available to me, I might as well do some good with it. And that's why every live show, 50% of my super chats that are ever purchased for any reason on my live streams will go to a selected charity announced at the top of the hour. I always wanted to eventually explore the wondrous world of philanthropy whenever I had even a little extra to give. Even when it's a very little extra. A million thanks to Val and Trevor, who participated in our first super chat studded live event. I love you guys. So what then, you ask, are we replacing live with on the category wheel? When I look back at 2020 this year, I realized one of the most joyous times of the year for me, despite not having anywhere to go outside my little apartment, was, say it with me, Halloween. I've always loved scary stories, autumn, ghosts, monsters, true crime, and horror is actually one of the very few genres of movies I will readily watch. So I think it's well deserving of an official spot on the wheel. once and for all. I hope you are looking as forward to 2021 as I am, and if you are one of the 2 people who are not regular subscribers who made it to this point, I think that might be a sign to subscribe or ring-a-ling-a-ding-dong that bell if you want to be here super early for the uploads and streams. And as for my regulars, you guys are shaping this channel for the better, and I cannot be more grateful for you being here every single time, in every single comment. In the comments, I want to hear at least one new thing you learned about your own personality, your own behavior, good or bad, in 2020. And that's not just a tactic to boost my own analytics. I legit read all of your responses to my content and find the most value in my own work when I know I've connected with someone at even a small level. Selfism! Selfism being the first wheel spin of the year. I cannot wait to see you again. And this is my outro.